Yes. So Dave Pokorny, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not bad. So Dave Pokorny, Wicked Slush, also Petaluma Westside Stories, and I'm sure struggling mightily in the year of COVID, 2020.
We've had January and February shows. Actually, we threw together one show in the middle of, I think it was July, out when Adobe had their outdoor tasting facility. We did something there, but that it went well. It just wasn't sustainable. So
right,
yeah,
especially so. I mean, gosh, what do you do when you're on hold? You just shut everything down? I mean, is there a mailing list?
Right.
Do people check in?
But yeah, we do. We have
talking about Westside.
Yeah, we have a website, and we do send out e-blasts. Usually we send out like 2 a month. We don't inundate people. Now it's like 1 every other month, just to let people update. Hey, we're still going to be at the Hotel Petaluma when they let us gather again. And so we just throw out a little updates now and then. And
that's the tricky part, too, because, letting people in is only half the battle. I mean, confidence, people being comfortable going out, that's a whole nother thing as well.
It's a whole nother thing. And in we just were getting ready to change spaces into a bigger space because we literally have been sold out every show for the last 6.5 years or so.
That's a good sign for getting a bigger place.
It's a really good sign. And then all of a sudden this happened. So I assume it'll pick up again. It'll take a month or two to get rolling to where we're selling out again, I would assume. Although people are itching to get out.
Oh man, there's a lot of pent up demand for sure.
Yeah, exactly. They're itching to get out and to be with their community, and that's kind of what the event actually is a community building event. I hesitate to say I'm like Obama organizing the community here. Hesitate
community
very
organizer
very heavily.
I come from a union background, so organizing's a familiar. Putting people together.
Exactly. And community building and people getting to know each other. I mean, we have people that have been coming to our show. We've been doing it. This is our 12th season. And we've been doing it so that there are people from completely different walks of life in Petaluma, or actually the greater Bay Area. We have people driving all the way up from Sunnyvale to tell stories, or at least to have a shot at telling a story. Because you drop your name in the hat and you never know if you're going to get called or not.
Well, also Westside Stories, that's one of the older storytelling.
Oh, we are the longest,
in the Bay Area,
longest running story slam in Northern California. We were here before the Moth, although technically the Moth as a bigger umbrella is a longer running storytelling show. But we had Juliet, my wife, and I were in New York, and we went to Brooklyn to the Moth and said, "This is the coolest thing." There are 300 people there to see everyday people tell stories. And when we got back, we looked up their website and they had a step-by-step. If you want to start one of these yourself.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we followed it to a T. And 12 years later, here we are, begging to get back on stage.
Now, how did you get there? Because you've taken a long road. I mean, I know you used to do stand-up. You've done some teaching, theatrical teaching, right?
I did. This is where Juliet and I actually met.
Well, how did you meet?
I was a stand-up comic, and I taught traffic school, and she happened to be my boss. She still is, as the joke goes. But she was the boss at the traffic school, and I met her through that. And
so your shitty driving got you.
Well, actually, I taught the classes.
Oh, you were in the class.
Yeah,
okay.
I taught the classes.
God, I'm trying to think if I'm looking back. I wonder if I ever ran across you. But I've been in traffic school once or twice.
I taught, and a lot of people laugh when I tell them how many classes, because I literally counted. I did 975 traffic school classes over.
You couldn't go for the even thousand?
No, I thought I would kill myself. And so I decided to get out. Actually, I was making a living as a stand-up, and I was doing fewer and fewer classes. It was kind of the bridge. I was out of town for a couple of weeks, and when I was home, I would, if I had a gig in town, I would still teach during the day on a Saturday and pick up an extra, $150.
Where was this at?
And, out of San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the school was Let Us Amuse You Traffic School. Lettuce spelled like a head of lettuce.
Like a head of lettuce.
Yeah, they thought they were clever and funny. I don't even know if they're still in business. They probably still could be. There's plenty of bad drivers out there. But
the coffee shops and hair salons are jealous for the naming of that one.
Exactly. And you know, I did it and I was good at it, I'll be honest with you. And it helped me develop my style as a storyteller, because I had to kill literally 6 hours and 40 minutes worth of actual time. It was an 8-hour class, but you have an hour for lunch and you have your 2 breaks and such. And
that must have been crazy.
6 hours and 40 minutes I was in charge of a classroom of adults who did not want to be there. So,
and that's got to be the all walks of life group too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You had your taxi drivers in there, your little old ladies, your kids who, I mean, I actually had somebody, I had a little Hall of Fame. I don't remember the whole thing now, but the Babe Ruth of traffic school was caught for driving 167 miles an hour.
Oh, nice.
112 over the speed limit. So, yeah, my first question, everybody asks, how do you, what was he driving? And my first question was, how do you get caught? If you're doing 112 over.
Right, the helicopter or the radio.
Actually, what it was is they found the license plate number and they went and waited for him at his house. And they thought, if he makes it, we're going to write him up, and they did. So he actually brought the ticket in with him. So I saw it, 167, it said on there.
That's probably not the right message, I think.
No, but we had a good time with him. But you had your young kids who were fearless. You had your older people who, rolled stop signs or what have you. And
does anybody stand out? I mean, how many years later are we?
Well, I haven't taught in probably, let's see. My daughter's 25, so at least 25 years.
All right.
Yeah. So, and maybe even more because, like I said, I started getting more and more stand-up gigs. And so I teach less and less and eventually stopped teaching altogether and was on the road most of the time.
The road. What's the road like?
The road is, it all ties together.
I watched some of your stuff. I watched the Montana one. Yeah.
It all ties together. Road, traffic school, stand-up, the whole 9 yards, it ties together. Being out on the road, at first is the most thrilling thing because, you're thinking, I've made it. I'm in Pocatello, Idaho, in front of a crowd of 6 guys with, John Deere hats. And, I'm telling my little witty, stories from San Francisco. And, it was, I learned a different skill set.
Honestly, that's awesome for them though, too.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, a lot of times they're, telling them to stop playing pool and moving the pool table out of the way to set up a microphone. And sometimes they didn't tell them to stop playing pool and they still set up the microphone up. Yeah, it was, some places were just horrible. Some places were really fun and I would want to go back to. But, it was the bigger cities. Like I would go to Seattle and work the Comedy Underground, which is a full-time comedy club.
Right.
And that was just fantastic. Seattle's a great town and Portland's a great town, but it's when you get to the little towns of Fife and Winnemucca, Nevada and Mountain Home and, Butte, Montana. And
so who's paying you? So the venue, or the bar in this case with the pool table in Idaho, Pocatello, are they slipping you,
No, the way it worked is there was a booking agent who booked a lot of the Pacific Northwest. His name David Tribble. I don't know if he still does it or not. Like I said, I've been out of that game for a while. But you would always go on a Tribble run, is what comics would call it.
A Tribble run.
And
I'm thinking Star Trek.
Yeah, it was one of those where you'd come back beaten up. I mean,
so you got to take the good with the bad. If you're going to take the Tribble run, you got to take it all.
Yeah, you're gonna do a great show in who knows, let's just say it's Pueblo, Colorado.
Right.
And then the next night you're going to be 500 miles away in, maybe it's Butte, Montana, and it's just going to be in a casino where they're serving Chinese food and they don't know any Chinese people. They've never seen, it's the worst place on the planet. And the next night, again, you're just outside of Seattle and it's a great, fun crowd and they get, wit and humor and sarcasm, whereas you got to be kind of beat them over the head a little bit when I remember I was in, I think it was Mountain Home, Nevada, and when I walked into the place, the guy asked, well, where's your equipment? And I said, what equipment? I'm a comic. I just stand at a mic. I don't need anything. He goes, well, all the bands bring their own lights and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not a band. It's just me. And they had one stage light, and it was in the back corner, and it was a pink light. And if I wanted to be seen by the audience, I needed to stand in the furthest point away from the crowd under the pink light. And it was just, you walked into a lot of places and you looked at it and you go, well, this is just going to be horrible. This is just a paycheck. I am a complete
But that's
whore.
cool. It's a paycheck.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
let's be honest. We've all kind of hoarded ourselves to pay the bills, right?
Well, a lot of times it was more fun to do an 8-hour traffic school class than it was to do a 30-minute set in the middle of nowhere.
30 minutes, that's an eternity.
It is when it's not fun. When it's fun, it's like, you're having a great time and time goes by and all of a sudden you glance down at your watch and you go, I got to get out of here. Thanks, everybody. Bye. And then other times you're looking at your watch every 2 minutes and going, oh, my God, I still have 18 minutes to go. And so there was a lot, honestly, there was a lot of those. Those were the filler gigs in between. I used to work Vegas, and that was a lot of fun. I'd go to Vegas 4 or 5 times a year and work at the Riviera. And
nice.
Yeah, it was really great. And they put you up and they feed you, and you had 22 hours a day to kill. And
of course, that's cool for like a year or two, right? But that's got get a little old at some point.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's weird because you're doing 7 nights at the Riviera in Vegas. You're doing all 7 nights, and there's 3 shows every single night. So there's 21 shows in a week, and you're kind of tired by the end.
Oh, that's work.
And you know what it is too? It's I remember the first time I worked there, and the guy who ran the club, he actually was in The Sopranos. His name in the show, if you know The Sopranos, he was Junior's bodyguard. He's Bobby Baklava, I think is what his name is.
Bobby Baklava. I never did The Sopranos. I've done all the movies.
Oh, he's
all the mob movies.
It was the weirdest thing that I turned it on one time, and then all of a sudden that's Steve Sharippa. He's the maitre d' at the Improv in Vegas, and he's the exact same person on that show as he was in real life. And the first time I walked in, the first time I walked into the Vegas room, they have pictures of other comics up on the wall, and I had just worked with Jake Johansson, who's just an incredibly funny. Been on Letterman, 50 or 60 times. Really, really funny. And I had worked with him the night before, and there was his picture. I go, oh, hey, Jake Johansson. And, just offhandedly. And this guy was giving me all the rules. You're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, or you're not going to get paid, or you're going to do this. And he's just this big refrigerator of a man, and he's telling you all the rules, and I'm, nodding and, intimidated. And then I go, oh, and by the way, Brian Leonard told me to say hello. This is another comic. And he looks at me and he goes, what are you, a fucking name dropper?
What are you, a fucking name dropper?
I'm like, no, he goes, you told me about this guy, you told me about that guy.
What are you, some kind of comedian?
Yeah, and then he says, you're going to do 8 minutes. You're not going to do 7:59. You're not going to do 8:01. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 8 minutes. And I did 8 minutes every single show. As soon as the light went on, I would go into I would save that one last joke that I know is a 60-second joke. And he would hit the light at 7 and boom, do it and get out of there. And I would host the show. But I would literally do the exact same show every single one, because by the end of 3 shows in a night, you don't remember, did I do this joke already? Am I doing it again this set? So the same exact set every single night. Yeah.
Get through it.
Yeah.
So on the Tribble run, though, are you traveling by yourself, or are you
most of the time,
up with a couple other people?
Most of the time,
you guys meet there.
Well,
or is he just booking one guy.
He's booking. It's 2 comics on a show, and the headliner's doing an hour, and I'm doing between 30 and 40. Jesus. So it's an hour and a half long show. So if I do a little longer, the headliner can do a little shorter. But whatever. I remember going to.
Although it's a good place to kind of work out too, and work your material and stuff too, right?
If it's a good crowd. I mean, again, you can walk into a place and literally, I think you said you watched something that talked about going to, was it Montana?
No, so you were doing the fake tequila shot.
Oh, Kelso, Washington. Okay. Yes. So Kelso, Washington, I go into the place in the middle of the day, and it's a Red Lion Inn, and it's just a bar, and you go, okay, this is a lounge. This is going to, kind of suck. It's not going to be great. And then when you get back there, when the show is about to happen, it turns out that some local radio station has done promo night, and it's a beach in there now. They've dumped like 1,000 pounds of sand on the dance floor, and they built a grass shack hut for the DJ, and women get in, I think it's wear beach attire, no cover charge, and women 50-cent shots of something like that.
Of anything.
And so it's just an incredible beach party when you walk in, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so worse than I thought, because they have to stop these guys from partying to put on the comedy show. And literally when they scratched the record, it was